Okay, so before I even discuss the episode, which was a very solid episode, once again, I need to talk about the gamer's end card. The end cards of this series are straight fire. Every single week, the end cards keep getting better and better. Last week, it was a really good end card. This week, oh my god. Okay, if you haven't seen the full picture yet, you could go to my Twitter and you can check it out. It's right there. It's like my latest post. It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful end card. But anyways, with that being said, let's talk about the latest episode of Gamers. So, all the misunderstandings that had been building up since near the beginning of the series was kind of finally settled with this episode, which is honestly surprising and refreshing the way it was handled, because you remember what I've been saying? Remember what I've been saying when it came to all these characters and their misunderstandings? The best way to solve the issues they're having is to sit down and talk. And I do like how the second segment of this episode was just that. Uehara popped is like, hey, with all these misunderstandings and stuff, we just need to sit down and talk it out. That's what we're doing. That's why we're playing this board game, which is a knockoff version of the Game of Life board game if you've ever played it, which I played it quite a bit in the past. Very fun board game, by the way. But basically, they sit around a table to play this board game, and they were using this as a way to kind of talk everything out and kind of handle all the problems that they've been having for the past couple episodes, which is all the misunderstandings. So I do like how self-aware this series is. Not just for that fact, but also how the series is very self-aware about its main character. At the beginning of the episode, the first segment, I want to talk about that, and then I'll get into the main stuff, which was the second segment. The first segment of the episode focused on a new character introduction. I'm not even going to lie, when the episode first started, I thought I was watching the wrong series. I was like, wait, am I watching the right series? Because honestly, it didn't seem like the same series. I mean, the characters were all different and all that. I mean, the art style was the same, but I mean, overall, it just seemed like I was watching a different series. I'm like, did I actually click on the wrong episode or something? The episode carried on and all that, and then I was looking like, yeah, this is definitely Gamers and all that, because, it had the title and all that. I'm like, okay, so, we'll see. Continued on, eventually we found out that this girl that was introduced is actually the younger sister to our other character that was introduced a couple episodes back, Mono, or, Chiaki, that's how you pronounce her name. This is the younger sister to her, and so she was introduced in this episode, and we get to see kind of how her life is, and how she's probably going to start viewing Amano, the main character for the remainder of this series. So with her introduction, overall, how I feel about her personality, she seems like a very, I guess, perverted character. I mean, she's actually a part of the student council, and once everybody leaves, she's very perverted. She starts, looking at the chairs, rubbing her head all over the chairs. I'm like, oh my god, this girl is just straight perverted. She's perverted. And then we found out that she loves to play games, those adult games, hentai games, which are 18+, because she actually goes into the 18+ section to purchase these games. So I'm like, oh my, so she is a really perverted character. But then she actually makes a surprise encounter with our MC. This is how you know it's actually Gamers at this point. You're like, okay, so they're mentioning, Tendo and all that, and then you have Amano pop up, so you're like, okay, so I am watching the right series. So Amano pops up, he's giving game recommendations, which is something we have seen him do before. He does give game recommendations, and that's kind of what any gamer does, honestly, and it's also what any fan of anything, honestly, would do. I mean, as someone that talks about anime constantly or manga constantly, many of constantly ask me, Chibi, do you have any recommendations for me? And I also do the same. I ask for recommendations, and many of you recommend it to me. And the same can be said for gamers as well. Gamers do that all the time. And so seeing something like this, it felt very real. It was realistic, because recommendations are a big thing when it comes to certain, communities you're a part of. And so when you saw Mono recommending games and stuff, it felt really inspirational in a way, because it reminded me of how I feel about certain things when it comes to me recommending series. Let me discuss that. So, the new girl that was introduced, she's sitting in the background, all that, and she's just listening into the conversation. She knows that these two kids, she doesn't know who they really are, but she knows that these two kids are a part of Tendo's school, and she kind of has this jealousy towards Tendo, because she is, better than her and all that, and you can see that with how her character is displayed. Now, that most likely is going to be used to complicate things between, Chiaki's younger sister and Amano, in the future, because we could probably see that she's going to develop a crush towards him. So there's going to be a weird love hexagon or something forming because of this episode. But getting back on topic though, she's listening in on the conversation, and Amano's recommending a game. And you have where this game is recommended, and it's like a mainstream game. It's kind of like this, okay? I recommend you guys to go watch Dragon Ball Z. When I recommend something like that, that's mainstream. It's a mainstream series. Everybody has heard about Dragon Ball, everybody's heard about Bleach, Naruto, One Piece, Attack on Titan, Sword Art Online, Death Note. Now, just because these are mainstream doesn't mean that the series are bad. It doesn't. However, the point is that everybody has heard of them, and many tend to overlook the hidden gems of certain, communities because they're so focused on the big things, like, for instance, the massive mainstream series. And so Amano, he was looking at this game, he's like, oh, this is a really good game. It's a masterpiece. Like, yeah, it's really worthy of, the recommendations and how good it is. He was saying, yeah, it's a great game. But then, as, the person he was, like, checking out with games with and all that and trying to recommend to him, he's like, okay, I'll get this. And Amano's like, whoa, 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 just because I said it was a good game doesn't mean I recommend this one. And he was very surprised, like, wait, why? Well, I think this game is much better. Like, he pulls out another game, which is, like, in a very cheap area of the store. Like, you can get it very cheap. It wouldn't cost much money. It's kind of like one of those games you'd see in, like, a bargain bin sell, when you're going into a store or whatever, and it's, like, only, like, $5 or something for a movie, DVD, or a game or something. That's basically how it was. He's like, here you go, try out this game. See, this game, this has everything you would want from this genre of video game, but also it's good, but it's unappreciated. It's a hidden gem. Not many people really know about it, and I want to be able to, actually shine some light on some series that aren't really discussed or even played often, and that's what he wanted to do. And I'm like, holy hell, this reminds me of myself. This reminds me of how I look at things. I mean, I've said this many times in the past when it comes to me reviewing series or even recommending series or whatever. I talked about how I like to make videos on stuff that isn't really popular. I mean, I like to talk about things that not many are really aware of and just, kind of get it out there. I mean, let's talk about, To You, the Immortal. When I was recommending that, but then also I recommended it to all of you, many started reading it, and many liked it. Many were telling me, like, Chibi, thank you for recommending this. Or, other series, like, when I was recommending, like, The Breaker a long time ago. I remember that one. And, I also remember some of the perverted side of, the Chibi community when I recommended Brawling Go or, Sweet Guy. So, I mean, when you look at some things like this, I feel the very same way as how Amano felt in this episode. I love to shine light on things that are underappreciated or just not really noticed often, and that is something I really respect from the main character. And so Chiaki's younger sister, when she saw this, she's like, holy crap, like, this man is awesome. Like, he actually likes these hidden gems and all that, and he actually picked up the game that she wanted to play as well. So I do enjoy that little aspect of this episode. But anyways, though, let's get into the second half. So the second half is very simple. It's a game of life. That is the best description I can give to the second half. It's the game of life used to fix misunderstandings amongst a group of individuals that are having their own issues with each other. And we know that there's just so many complications when it comes to all of the characters, but at the same time, though, we now know that Tendo and Amano, they have formed a relationship, they're boyfriend-girlfriend, and it seems like they are kicking it off. They are starting to become a natural boyfriend-girlfriend, and it's a really sweet interaction between these two characters. I didn't think it would work out this early in the series. And when you see these two, they're having their own little disputes, or, they're working together, whatever, you just gotta love the exchanges between the characters, especially when, like, Tendo looks at Amano when they're playing the game of life and he knocks up Aguri in the game. I'm like, oh my god, that is hilarious. Yes, I'm not even joking. In the episode, the game of life, you know how you can have kids and stuff? Well, apparently this game of life or whatever, it's like a knockoff. You can be in the same car and you can actually knock up your partner with a child in the game and they're pregnant or whatever. And so you had to where Amano was constantly doing this to Aguri in the game, and you had to where Tendo and Urahara and all that, they were getting really upset, like, what the hell? Like, they're looking at, Amano with disgust, and the way the conversation was, with the dialogue in general, it was very perverted, and it could definitely be taken quickly out of context if you heard it and you weren't really paying attention. So, the scenes in this episode were very funny, and it just added much more enjoyment to the actual episode than I thought it would. I didn't think I would enjoy the episode as much as I did, but it was a solid episode. Now, when we get to the actual ending conclusion of the episode, when the misunderstandings are fixed, you have it to where Urahara finally makes up with Aguri, and, they finally kind of lay it to rest that, they're cheating or whatever. They are finally back together completely again, or Tendo has now, fixed her misunderstandings with, Amano, and Amano's done that as well. Just overall, that entire sequence is a really nice way to progress the plot. plot and also show that these characters were able to officially talk. However, we have another thing arise, a complication, which is Chiaki's revelation that she finds out that Amano is the person she plays with on the game, the mobile game. And she's Mono, and, he's this one that, plays with her all the time and helps her out. Now, we already knew this was eventually going to happen. They were going to meet, and they were going to discuss this, and most likely Chiaki was going to, fall in love with him. That's just a typical thing you would see. It's still very sad, though, because when I think of series that have romance, or rom-coms, or whatever, usually it's obvious that the MC is going to get with the main girl, Tendo. It makes sense. That's how the series is going to go. It's a rarity to see the MC go with another girl. It is. And so, when you see the final scene at the end of the episode where she's looking at, Tendo, looking at Amano and all that in a relationship, and she's realizing everything, I'm happy for her. But at the same time, I feel bad for her because it's a tragedy. Not just in the sense that, it was just too late to become, Amano's girlfriend, but also in the fact that the story is against her. The writer is against her. The genre itself is against her. It's just not possible for her to get with Amano, which is sad. It is. I really like Chiaki. I feel like they're very compatible, but because this is, an anime or a manga based on manga and all that, and these series tend to go a certain route, it's obvious that she won't end up with him, which I feel very upset for, and it's sad to see that. But overall, though, it was still a good episode, so let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.